seems that an unidentified object of unknown origin was operating in the UK air defence region without being detected on radar, and it would appear to be of considerable defence significance. And I recommend that we investigate further within MOD or with the US authorities. So again, why the US authorities? Again, it's obviously a reference to the suspicion that was shared by his head of division, the head of
Right.
SecAS, and by the DI-55 desk officer that the Americans were flying something that they weren't telling us about. And this again harks back to what had gone on before with the Belgian flap and the Calvin photographs and the rumours about something being based at RAF Macrihanish that the Americans are operating in secrecy. So it seems to have fed into the Cosford flap in 1993. Now, all that stuff was copied as far as the Assistant Chief of the Air Staff, a very senior RAF official, who basically looked at it and said, "I've made contact with the Americans, and they didn't have anything flying." And you can see someone has said there. You can see the scribble.
At the
There's
top here,
two lots of scribble. One of them is Nick Pope's handwriting.
this one's
Yeah.
Pope here. Yeah.
The far right is Nick Pope's, and the one at the side is his boss, who
Yeah.
was the real head of the UFO desk. And as you can see, thank you. I suggest you now drop this subject. So he's
Yeah.
basically saying, yeah, good job, Nick. You've done all you can. Now let's drop it, please.
Disclosure Team with Vinnie Adams, Dr. David Clarke, the 1993 Cosford Incident. So they're basically very closely going over a UK UFO sighting from 1993 that was kind of in a cluster of UK UFO sightings, a flap. It's not exactly a debunking. It's sorta a little bit of a debunking though. And basically they go through it really carefully. They go through all the little parts, talk about satellite data, radar data, all the different people who reported different kinds of things, the witnesses, the eyewitnesses, and then also people who saw stuff on radar, made military and police reports about it afterwards. And then Nick Pope, the Fox Mulder of England, they even mention in here that this was right after the premiere of the X-Files in the UK. So basically either for or against the sightings, or if you're kind of like a debunker, not a debunker in ufology, they'll mention that when shows like X-Files first go on the air, sightings go up afterwards in that area. So they go through all the little pieces. They talk about the helicopter that saw something in another helicopter that was reported as something, but it was just a helicopter. They also make the point in here that a lot of these reports are coming from people who, would know the difference between a helicopter and something that's not a helicopter. So it's kind of fun. It's short. You're not listening to it for 3 hours. You still get the UFO story. And at the end, they're not even saying it's not a UFO. But what they are saying is that even the people who kind of promote it as a UFO didn't really think it was a UFO, quote unquote, because they probably just thought it was some crazy, awesome American stuff. And that's kind of how they end up at. Right back here is, Nick Pope's report and recommendation saying, hey, we should, it's not these things, but it could be these things, but we don't know what it is, and maybe we need to ask the Americans what it is. And then someone writes back and says, thanks for your report. Now drop it. So that's funny. Another fun kind of criticism in the middle here that they give of Nick Pope is this guy says, well, Nick Pope, to his knowledge, had never went out and actually went to the places and interviewed people. And I think he's talking about this particular subject, this particular case. He says, well, Nick Pope, he didn't go there and interview the people. He got the reports that other people did, that the cops did, that the military people did. He filed those, he read them, he did an analysis of them, he did a report on it, but he never actually went there and talked to people or did an investigation. His investigation was compiling other people's investigation and then making a summary report. So that's a report, I guess. That's an investigation. And sending it off to his boss and people above him with saying, yeah, we should do more. We should look into this more. But first we should ask the Americans. So it's not like super negative towards Nick Pope, but like I said, it's kind of like a debunking, and you'll see, Nick Pope's kind of involved in things that are technically debunking, so they're not really attacking him. Like I said, it's a quick one. It's a fun UFO story, and then they bring in a lot of other perspectives of a UFO story as they go through all the different places that the evidence came from, all the different witnesses, and their perspective, and why what they saw wasn't a helicopter, or was a helicopter and not a UFO, and not a satellite that was crashing 10 days earlier or 10 days later. Stuff like that. And this guy's, these guys are both. They're ufologists, right? We got Dr. David Clarke. He's a real scientist, UFO scientist. And then we got Vinnie Adams there, Disclosure Team. He's a UFO podcaster, right? So getting it on the front lines. What was it? March 31, 2023. And it's about 1993. So this is old, but the reason it's in here is to show how hard talking about UFOs is, because it could just be a helicopter. And a lot of people at least think it's a helicopter, even if it's, I guess, not.